So, hello and a warm welcome to you all. My name is Mark Morley, and this is the IT Business Partner Playbook, a new series where I'll be joined every week by business relationship managers and business partners from around the globe. We'll be finding out what they love, what they loathe about their roles, and what they believe makes their job so critical. Our hope is that the insights and the experiences shared here will help quash common misconceptions and help organizations extract the maximum value from this often misunderstood capability. In our last episode, we met with Dawn Willwood, a business partner at the Birmingham City University in the UK. Dawn spoke about the challenges of being a woman in a typically male environment, but also the opportunities that now exist, including those that she herself has created within the university. Her passion for the role and driving change is really inspiring, and I look forward to hearing more from Dawn in the future. This week, I'm delighted to be joined by Dalizu Buthelezi, a business relationship manager at the South African Reserve Bank. I met Dalizu when we ran a maturity assessment for his team a few years ago, and I'm really keen to hear how things have been progressing since. So, Dalizu, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for joining me. Can I ask you to give us a brief introduction, and then we can share with the world what BRM looks like in South Africa?
Thanks, Mark. We've been meeting each other quite a few times in our work space. My name is Dalizu Buthelezi, and I'm based in South Africa and a business relationship manager since 2013. All worked both at a government institution, government department in South Africa, and now I'm working in a sort of a private sector environment, though it's always debatable when you think about a central bank in our country. So I've been exposed to both the sectors in the space, and had learnings from that side, and also learnings and also how organizations are welcoming the role. We know this is one of the newish roles, if we can say so. You need to explain what you do and why you're here, sometimes even to your own colleagues. So that's what I think will also be interesting about the chat, what we really experience on the ground. Thank you.
Thanks, Dalizu. And it's interesting you started with explaining your role, because this is something we found, with most people that we speak to, that the business relationship manager or business partner is not the easiest role to explain. If you're a truck driver or if you're a chef, it's pretty easy to explain that. Is there something you have kind of struggled with, or have you got it down to a fine art now to be able to explain to your colleagues and even friends and family what it is that you do?
Don't even go outside the organization. That's even more difficult to explain. But again, you're not under pressure, right, to sound correct. You just say, I work with computers and people, and try to make the two talk to each other. Then you leave it there. But when you come to the work environment, it's quite difficult because, for instance, in one of the organizations I worked for, we've been asked, what deliverable do you produce, right? And it's always an interesting one, because we heavily accountable for a business case, for instance. But in my current environment, for instance, I'm not the one typing the actual document. We've got business analysts do that, but we are accountable. So it's quite still a complex matter to explain, really, because you even find your own colleagues in IT asking you questions about the role. And when things happen, what you also realize now, when there was an incident, maybe a major incident, somebody will ask, where was the BRM, right? So there is that sense that we need to be aware of everything that's happening. But again, you're not always accountable for everything that's happening, but you need to be aware and be able to cushion the communication, to make sure that people that needs to know stuff needs to know that. So yeah, indeed, it has. And when people change, you need to start over, and explain the role. And also, people have different expectations of the role, and you must always try to see how this person from operations sees you. What value do they get from you? This person from a strategy side, from architecture side, how do they see you and what value do you bring to them? Project execution, what value do you bring to them? So our role is quite still fluffy. It satisfies a lot of people, and people have a lot of expectation about what we offer. Yeah.
Who do you think understands it the quickest or the easiest? So of all of the functions and the people that you work with, who kind of gets DRM the best, do you think?
Interestingly enough, business kind of gets our value best, and I would say, I think if we go back also on how BRM positioned itself, we were the advocates. Actually, we were also chatting offline about our conversation with Infotech even right now that's going on. So one of the things that was counted there is what a BRM is and what a BRM is not. So it's written there, we went advocacy for business. And I think at some point we did that very well and probably even over done it. So you find that business has got more appreciation of the value we add. And they also like that idea that they don't have to talk to 20 people. They know who they go to, that then that person can give them direction. So and then when you come back home in IT, that's where we actually find out that we were now seen to be over advocating for business and be seen as a police officer, an escalation manager, which then dented our relationship back home. So yeah, I think interestingly enough, we found that business understood the role better. I think because it gives them more value. That's when that's why they also had interest in the role, and they spend more time with us. They wanna know more and they wanna abuse us more. So yeah, I find that business actually has been quite friendly to the role and more understanding than even IT itself.
But do you think there's an appreciation within IT that I mean, when I spoke to Jeremy about this way back in episode 1, he was saying one of the things that he uses to demonstrate their value is not necessarily the things that they've done, is it the things they've helped prevent. So when you've got a huge pipeline of work that would be coming into IT, the VRMs are in there kind of analyzing, assessing and judging what should be going through the funnel. So do you have an appreciation from the IT team that that they are aware that you are kind of helping them shape the demand and make sure they're not being kind of overloaded with stuff that they might do otherwise if you were not there?
Sure, and it's actually a very difficult question because it also depends how well the demand shaping is being executed, and also you need a couple of role players to be doing their best as well to help you with that. Otherwise, the demand shaping is then perceived as a time delaying tactic by business. Or if you want us to wait on the queue for long, you just throw us through that demand shaping process, whatever you call it. So there is appreciation from IT on that side, that they do look into us to control the gate, so that the floodgates are not wide open. And also just to make sure that the customer's expectations are managed. We're not just harshly closing the gate, but there's communication, there is a view of forecasting of some sort. So there is a huge expectation, from IT that we play that role. And again, there's still more, from an improvement side. If I'm talking about my current situation, there's the IT is expecting more from us in that part of the channel.
Right. Okay. Just to go back a step, what actually? How did you get involved in BRM in the first place? Was it your first BRM position at Reserve Bank, or was it before then?
It was before then. I was coming from business analysis. Also did some acting project management. So when I first saw a BRM role advertised in Department of Trade Industry South Africa, I applied. When I looked at the responsibilities, I ticked most of the boxes, from being able to analyze, problem solving, strategic thinking, planning, the elements of portfolio management coming in there. So I applied, I got the position. That's when then my first foundation training was given to me from that first employer. So yeah, it's a role that I wasn't aware of, until I saw a post advertised, and saw that most of the things that I was able to do, they were already listed there. So yeah, it's a role that I stumbled upon. But once I was in there, then you get training, you get exposure, and then you realize, oh, I have so much training from IT side. The role needs you to understand business. Otherwise, you can't add value. You can't make proposition. Even your exploration is not sharp because you don't understand the nitty-gritties of business. So now you need to be trained in the business domain, so to say. And if you are allocated to 5 departments, you understand now. You need to understand that portion and that portion and also the allocation sometimes is not considerate that, for instance, I think that's what we're dealing with right now. You're not allocated even divisions or department or sections in the business area that are related to each other. You find that they are vastly different. Now you need to get into that space, and I think one of the big challenges has been the honesty around the time. Because some of the areas you need time, because we are IT trained. Now, if I'm in an economics space, now I need to get into the economic, go deeper, understand what are the inputs, what do they process, what the outputs look like, and apply the IT knowledge into those realities so that I can be able to propose stuff. So yeah, that's how I got to know of the role. And the interesting part is that, yeah, training is forever going to be happening, because you get allocated to a new area. You need to understand the ins and out of that area so that you can add value. Yeah.
With the training, I mean, this is kind of on the job training, I assume. So do you just go and spend time with these partners and days or weeks, or is this do you kind of job shadowing them? How is it? How do you kind of get comfortable with understanding what they're doing, and then understanding what they're needing, and then understanding kind of how the IT capability can support that?
It's I think from the both organization I've worked in, it's a harsh training, on the job training. You train yourself, to be honest. If you're lucky enough, you're gonna get induction packed into that department, right? As you're starting play. Some departments don't even have, those kinds of documentations in place to say, okay, welcome to the department. This is what we do. So the next training document will be some old business case that was done to establish a document. It tells you, okay, this is what this project was trying to address. So from a strategy, this is what they're looking at. The problem statement was looking at. The next batch of document is a strategy document for that particular department, and then being invited into the strategy planning sessions of the department. I think that's your biggest value add, because now you get into the SWOT analysis, the PESTEL, how everything else affects that particular business area. Then they drill down from that the vision to the main business objectives, strategic objectives of the department, to the processes, to the initiative that they have. Then you get the top, from all the way from the top all the way down to the activities that they do, and then you just grow from there. Then you keep your ear on the ground. If they've got media briefing, you in there. You're trying to, you get a new term, and then you go Google what this terminology means. They're mentioning it a lot. So yeah, it's that's about the business domain that you get. If you're lucky enough, then you can request, depending on who's making the call and request, to go on some of the trainings for business. But my experience is it's been a harsh training that you must drive yourself as an ERF into knowing the business. Yeah.
And you mentioned being invited to the strategy sessions. I mean, were you invited? Were business happy to bring you along to those, or was that kind of a battle even to get into those meetings?
Yeah, fortunately enough, we have, and in my current organization, we also have partnership with the strategy management office. So when they do planning, they know that IT must send representative, and usually we send two. So a BRM definitely is the first go-to person, and then sometimes you have an architect coming with you. You'll have maybe one of an application manager for the core application of that department. So somebody who can talk to the day-to-day operations of that department and what roadmaps they have in that application that is core to the department. So we go in twos in most cases when we're lucky, and sometimes some big complex departments will have three, and some will only have one seat for IT, and then sometimes it's not even a PRM going, maybe a CIO will go or a manager. But I think it's good enough that we have representation from IT. Even if I'm not there, we have a circle back with an architect that was there to say, okay, what was the outcomes? And we also, what we've recently started, by the way, which is also interesting, is we have a collaborative input when we go to these strategies. An architect creates a pack for that department to say, okay, architecturally, this is what is happening. Outside in the world, maybe we'll touch on this, another conflicting ownership, because we are saying we as PRMs are explorers, right? Can we be given? The architects are like, no, we know the architecture better. That is our job to explore stuff and propose stuff. But magic word collaboration, so we can do this together. I can't go there and pick on something and bring it here when your architecture is not embracing it, or it's going to bring disruption. That's all if you collaborate. But yeah, we do have an invite, which is a brilliant win, because that's where everything starts. That's where direction changes. So yeah, that's really appreciated. If you get as a PRM, it's a brilliant start for you to start on the new financial year or the calendar year.
You talk about BRMs being the explorers and architects having to rein them in. Have you found in the last couple of years, especially since COVID, that the business have kind of been going out and seeing what's out there themselves and exploring themselves and bringing stuff into the environment that maybe doesn't fit or there's caused stress on the system?
Yeah, so we've got a couple of those. So some of the business areas in our space have got technical people that want to build models. So though it's an economics space, but you've got economists that knows how to program in R, and they want to use machine learning and create models and stuff. And you find that we weren't there exploring as yet as IT, right? And they influence us into putting resources there, putting people there, and even building strategies in some of the cases. And I think overall, you find that also industry. I think maybe a case in point that probably I don't have rights to talk about is the Bitcoin and the currency and all those things that are happening outside. They kind of influenced us as a regulator to formulate teams internally to look at these things and have a position. But the truth is, it started happening outside the environment, before we jumped on it. So yeah, we have cases where a business go out, explore stuff. But the good thing is, in organizations, is when IT has full custody of the architecture, then they can gatekeep. They can scrutinize things before they are deployed, so you don't deploy things that are gonna bring security or vulnerabilities. So if the installation power of these things is sitting with IT centrally, then you've got technology forums that can look at these things. But sometimes there's gonna be that friction that business has gone so much exploring this thing, now they wanna deploy it, and then IT is like, wait a minute, we don't know what this thing is. And then there's frustration with business. Guys, people are doing these things outside. Why are you still, asking so many questions? So there's been those frictions, but I think when your architectural bodies are in place, they are able to control then what then gets deployed into the environment.
Right. Okay. As a BRM or business partner, what do you think has helped you most kind of perform your role?
So the personality comes a long way. Just be somebody who can create relationships with people. And there has been cases where, in my case, even where I've struggled to create rapport with a particular stakeholder, to a point that you go ask for help. You go find somebody. And what you're also doing, because in our case, we've got, for instance, business analysts reporting to us. When you figure out, oh no, this particular client actually likes my senior business analyst, there's no need for me to bulldoze, try be that person. Let me allow that person. Also, it's growth for them, right? They can take over the role, do what I will do, then we caucus on the side. So I think relationships though are number one. If you're able to read personalities and know what this client want and that one doesn't want, then you can pull string. You can call them at 9 p.m. They can also call you at any time because you've created that relationship. So it becomes number one. And then number two is your investment in understanding their business, right? So you're not always talking general in conversations. You're speaking, though you're not an expert, right? These may be questions, but are questions that show that you've taken your time into understanding, this world that is not your world as an IT specialist. And then thirdly is don't forget IT. Actually, it's one of the points that I put down this morning to say, do not forget IT. And my experience says our colleagues in IT felt neglected. They didn't feel the love. We give so much love to our customers because, when we get employed, that's what is given to us. You're going to advocate for business. But I think we as BRM probably have overdone that and forgotten IT. So create relationships with IT, collaborate with them, even when you communicate. Because at some point, we were blamed for being, escalating, different IT areas into IT management. And we were not liked for that. But we realized that no, actually it's because we haven't created enough relationships back home. So that's very critical. So what we have in our organizations right now, as much as we meet IT on monthly basis, maybe we also have engagements with different IT areas back home, where all BRMs, we come together, we have an agenda, we're meeting the person that deals with infrastructure and say, okay, we've collected the points from business that deals with network infrastructure. These are the things that came up. Okay, can we get this addressed? Then we have a report. We've got minutes that says we're engaging with particular area in IT. These are the things that we're tracking, that we're trying to close. Then we can take a unified communication status back to business and take issues from business to that same area and other areas in IT. So that is critical. Create relationships back home. It makes them feel special as well. It makes them feel listened to. And I think, when we started, we were not as deliberate about that, but I think it's quite a critical one and going forward.
Yeah, it's interesting. Those three things you've picked up on there. There's been a common theme with each of the guests that I've had through the episodes, and I think they're smack bang on the money there. I think, and Jeremy again mentioned this in his episode, that it's easy to forget about IT. It's easy to kind of get too involved with the business because those are the people we feel are not our team. So we need to go and help them and support them. So it's easy to forget the IT guys. And one way that he addressed that, or the company did, is that when IT do something that's kind of a success, a win, that they make sure they give credit for that. They take the IT guys along to the business and say, look what they've done. This is really good. You needed something delivered, they've done it, and it's a great job. So giving credit to those people to bring them out of the basement effectively and say, these are doing a great job. The other thing that was interesting that you were saying is that I guess it's as a BRM not to have an ego. So you might think that you own the relationship with these people. But if you can see that that's not working, and that the people that you partner with would work better together, then just step aside and do that. Obviously, stay involved, stay in communication with them, but don't have an ego. If someone else is going to work better together, just let them do that, which I think is a really good point, because that's something. And I mentioned to you earlier that especially when you go on training and you hear about best practices and the way things kind of should be done. Yeah, it's easy to try and force those things. But if it doesn't fit the environment, if it doesn't work for the people you're working with, then sure, leave them to one side. Just focus on what is actually going to work. So that was really interesting you said that. Just to go back to kind of training or the use of frameworks, do you find, or do you meet regularly with the rest of the BRM team to say, look, I've been working with this person, this is working really well, or I'm struggling with this, how are you coping with it? Do you have like a game plan that you share among the team, or do you work kind of individually with your own functions?
Yeah, so we collaborate quite a lot, and I think also coming into a new space, because the division, the BRM section was created, it's less than 10 years old. So when it was established, it had to borrow some of the functions from other areas that already existed, and there was also that friction. For instance, we made an example of exploration, right? And also another area that we had friction with when we started was portfolio management. When we thought, okay, now we want to take over the portfolio, we want to do benefit realization and reporting, and the portfolio don't come close to our space now. Watch it, So those earlier frictions, right? They just forced the BRM community to come together, and we share a lot, and we devise strategies, and so there's a lot that we do commonly. We've designed engagement models, and again, they don't work the same in every business area because people are different. Critical areas are also different. Some of your client department are more worried about the operation. Keep the lights on, make sure the systems, and you can't go there, talk strategy, make sure that the infrastructure is stable, and you find that then the BRM in that case is going to be drawn from even trying to be a strategic partner. Make sure that you work closely with your ops managers. Make sure that if there's incidences, you are there, you're closing them off on time, because there's a backbone of that business if anything is not working. So though we've devised some of the things as a team, but we've realized that they work differently in different areas. In some areas you can meet monthly, some areas you meet quarterly. In some areas you meet with the head of department, some areas you meet with the second in charge of the department. So but yeah, we've got engagement models that we've designed that are a blueprint to say strategically this is what you need to consider when engaging. Tactically, this is what you may cover in your agenda. Operationally, that's what you can do. But again, we've got people that work with us in our organization that then deals mostly with the operational stuff that you don't have to chase on calls, stuff like that. But so we've got things like that. I think a demand management process, we own it. And again, interesting one is that process doesn't exist in your COVID processes. So it's a process that you create, well customized for your organization, that also bring us all together, because we then together look at the incoming channel, and we come up with plans on how to deal with that. But yeah, so in overall, we've got engagements and things that we collaboratively work together. Even the engagements with the different areas, we call them service towers. All BRMs will come together. We'll have an agenda item. We'll meet with the architecture team. we partner, we look at the issues that are making us ineffective and address those. We meet with infrastructure, we meet with all the different application areas as BRMs together. We just rotating the chairs. So one BRM will lead the chairpersonship when we meeting with architecture area, when we meet infrastructure. So those things has helped us that we mostly sing from the same hymn book, and we use the same templates in addressing, and also the communication that then goes back to business is consistent across all of us as BRM. But if you ask me, there is more that we still need to do, I think, just under general. So these are defined stuff that we do, but there's issues that I face as Daliso with my client that I don't know how to deal with, right? And I think we still need a forum to talk about those softer side things, right? That are not all black and white. So that, I think, for me is still we've spoken about it, that we need a PRM forum just to look at, the softer things, just to address them. Because when you talk with a PRM on a corner, you realize they're going through something that is different from what you're going through. In your space, it goes well. What is going wrong in my space is going well in their spaces, but we don't, sometimes we're not open about it because it's my problem that I need to fix. So yeah, that's just improvements that we are working on as well. What brought us together was the friction that was created by the creation of the PRM division because of the understanding of the role. So it really forced a community to come together, create our own tools, create our engagement models, things that we can all talk to, and when we are asked, we can point to. So, and some of the things, and there's a lot of tools that are found in the BRM training. And we've built them, hoping hit the ground with them. But most of them, honestly, we haven't been able to utilize as we wanted to. For instance, your what do they call it? A value chain, or a table of value. We crafted those things, but we haven't been able to operationalize them as we wanted to. But they are customers. And another thing maybe that is important to say is, and it borders around the space where I even get concerned. So organization would want to over customize the role, depending on what the leadership is feeling at the time or where the pain points are. You may find that you as a BRM area, you brought into that to help close the gap. And by the way, this is what we've seen, which we're also putting when we're doing our SWOT analysis. The PRM role is one of the most flexible roles in the organization. It's the role that is easily pulled to the space. For instance, when we went on to COVID-19, BRM played a huge role in our organization. We had to take up stuff that that has nothing to do with BRM. For instance, I led the virtual events management because we had to move into virtual space where organization does in-person events. We need to make sure that we now can do these things virtually and it still present the same thing. And I had to take over that component. It has nothing to do with my role, but also my colleagues took other roles in that space. So it's another win for our role. It's one of the most flexible role, and I think we need to be careful that we don't end up permanently take over those roles. It's good that we add value by closing the gap, but there must be transition and when somebody can take over that. So yeah, there's a lot of tools that we've devised, but few of them are working very well for us. We are still hoping that there would be more understanding in some of the things that we've created. For instance, when we we did our relationship maturity exercise with yourselves, right? Also from the BRM community, the tools are not sufficient as at this point, right? So we still need to do more in creating tools that understands the role, because sometimes people tend to think we are assessing the BRM as a function. No, we are assessing a relationship of the service provider and the business, and we need tools that are crafted in such a way. So there's still a lot of work that we need to do, as a bigger community, and also we as the team in the organization. There's still more tools that we can do just to make sure that our work looks better and feels better, and also there is reference to the things that we do, because I think there's a lot of work, there's a lot of theory work that's in the book that we can make use of, that we still haven't even touched on at this point.
Yeah, I mean, as you're saying, you have to make sure the environment is kind of ready for it before you try and put these things into place. Just going back to the tools that you use, having spoken to a number of people, both on these episodes and just in the people that we're training and consulting with, it seems to be a kind of BRM tool. There aren't many that really exist or even kind of are necessary, because all of the partners that you work with have their own tools. So it's just really up to the BRM to kind of utilize what's already there, rather than trying to bring in something new. I think one of the, I guess you could call it a tool, is the relationship strategy on a page. Everything has to be on a page. But I think that's quite a nice one, just so that when you're first, formalizing your relationship with your partners, just to get an understanding of, who they are, what they're trying to do, who you are, and how you can help them. I think that's a nice tool, and that's kind of a BRM specific tool. But I think as for other tools that exist and used, most people, I mean, Bhupinder a couple of weeks ago was saying it just has a to-do list, and a number of other people were saying the same thing. So it's important not to kind of overcomplicate these things. There's tools that are out there that your partners are using. So it's maybe not efficient to bring in more tools and expect people to use them. Just use what's out there already. Can I just ask, how many people do you have within the BRM team? And then do you actually call them BRMs? Are you all called BRMs there?
Yeah. Yes, I'm laughing because there were discussions if we should be renamed. So we are 7, and when the division was first formed, it was called BRM Division. It has been changed now to Business Enablement Division, because it kind of gave priority to us as BRMs, but we've got other roles. We've got BAs in our team. We've got customer services managers, the role that I said helps us with managing the operation. So every BRM has got a customer services manager working with them. So because there's different roles, we then said calling the division BRM is not fair. So the division has been changed, but we are still called BRMs. And the function that we do is still called a BRM, but the bigger division has been enlarged to accommodate the other roles we also have service portfolio manager role is sitting with us, service level manager is sitting with us, the person who drafts the SLAs, does the negotiation. They should be in operations with service level management, but they're sitting with us. So they become part of the conversation when we're renegotiating SLAs, when we're reporting on performance. They also have visibility on that. It's neither here nor there, but they are within our division. That's another motivation why our name as a division had to be changed. But our roles, definitely, it is still BRM.
And is everyone within that division, and even on the periphery, people that you're working with, is it clear to everyone what the BRM role is or should be, or is it left down to you as individuals to kind of communicate that and make sure that it's understood? And if it's not, if it's not the case, it's by no means unique to the Reserve Bank, because there are many other organisations that we work with. It is kind of just left down to the individual to explain, I'm a BRM, this is how I can help you, and hope that it's accepted.
Yeah. So no, we've been explaining for the past 7 years. And also, I think with what I was saying, when things change a bit, we probably are the go-to division to help close. But and I think it's that thing that everybody else's role has been here for a while, right? Except if we look at your what do they call them, the fourth generation roles and the artificial intelligence, those newish roles. But everybody else's role, the tester has been here for years, the developer has been here for years, all technicians has been here. So if something new comes, they definitely know it's not their problem, right? Then we are the ones who, maybe these new people can take over this one. No, as long as it's not technical enough, it's most likely gonna be given to us. So yeah, we do have to, we keep explaining our role. And the thing is what I touched on in the beginning, everybody wanna relate to you in a particular way, and they wanna source the value that you give to their function. So the way they look at you with that lens that this is, if you're a project manager, the project manager says, before I escalate to steercos and everybody else, the first person I need to escalate to if there's IT issues in my BRM, right? So they see you as an escalation of a block remover, in the first block remover in the project phase, right? When infrastructure has got an outage and they need to tell business as an outage, they think of you as go take the hit, communicate that, right? So everybody sees you in a way that you add value to them, and somebody will see you as a change manager, somebody will see you as a communication, somebody will see you as an escalation manager, somebody will see you as a strategic partner, because when we want to talk the future, you understand what. So yeah, we keep explaining our role, and it always takes a different flavor depending on who you're talking to in IT. And I think we've just gotten accustomed to that fact that your explanation of the role will slightly change depending on who you talk to and what value they looking for from you. And so it always you move away from I'm the mediator between business and IT that protect the value. That's theoretical explanation. But when person okay, with that said, how do you help me as a PM? How do you help me as a tester? Then they wanna then that definition needs to come closer to them and be more crystal to what they do and what value add to them and as an area.
Do you ever have the desire to move into one of those roles where you don't have to forever explain what it is that you do?
I doubt we'll ever get there. But if you look at other areas, they've gotten there, and I'm looking at non-technical areas, right? So they've gotten into spaces where it's known. It's known what a PA does, right? They're not doing anything technical, but I think from the deliverables, from the clarity of their deliverables, it's easier to explain that. Okay, if I'm looking at a business analyst, I'm gonna get my specification, business specification. I'm gonna get my functional specification. I'm gonna get my business case. So it's clear they analyze and document the requirements. They analyze and document the specifications, the functional specifications. So it's clearer based on the deliverables that they do. And our deliverables, for instance, we're talking about a tool, the business canvas. So again, in my organization, I'm driving that part. I own the relationship management process.
Okay.
So one of the deliverables of the process is the business canvas.
Right.
And my colleagues were like, okay, what does it do? And at a time, I tried to explain, and I could see that they were not getting it. I'm saying, so as a BRM, you are expected to know your business area. So if I ask you, show me that you know your business area. Your business canvas is a summary of your business area, right? And this is an IT interpreted view of the business. So I'm gonna point you to my business canvas because it gives you a summary and it tells you what you as IT are gonna look at. But beside that, the deliverable is basically no one is consuming it, right? Except you as a BRM. So people, actually, we're only finding relevance now when you're talking about that collaboration with architects, for instance. So before an architect gives me a pack that I can take to strategy, I throw at them the business canvas to say, okay, this is my client. This is the strategic direction, objectives, major risks, initiatives, customers, so that summarizes. So it's getting used in that space. But beside that, the business canvas sits there and look at you as a PRM to say, okay, things have changed in your business area, go update. So because there isn't much consumption of our deliverables by other people. For instance, the project won't stop just because there's no business canvas, but a business will stop because there's no test spec, test plan, or BRS, or design. So I think if ever we get into that space, and I don't know if we ever gonna get into that space where the tools that we use are then consumed in different platforms, especially in IT, and then everybody sees value from those tools. Even if you're not there as a person, your tool can speak for you. Then our role will be in a much easier space to explain, because people are like, okay, no, we can't move now. We don't know where to go because the deliverable that's supposed to come from a BRM is not here that tells us 1, 2, 3. So once we're in that space, then it's going to be easier to say, okay, it's that role that helps us understand 1, 2, 3, and it uses this deliverables or these tools to do that. And there they are. They were done by so and so who's at BRM. And then I think that's going to be the time that's going to be easy. But I think we still have a long way to get there. For instance, relationship maturity. IT don't know what that is. We still need to explain to them what a relationship maturity is. Most would think we're rating BRM functions or BRMs themselves, but no, we're saying you as IT, are you an order taker? Are you a service provider? Do you have elements of advisory to business? And how would you know if you do and when you don't? So to be honest, those are some of the key reports that IT should be looking at when they go do their own strategy. But truth is, I don't think that is being looked at in that way. We do the normal threat analysis, but nobody is saying, okay, BRM, come onto the table, tell us how immature or matured we are as an organization, and how do you get to those? What are the variables that you use to get into rating the level? So I think once we get into those stages where these tools are used well by IT organizations, our role will be much clearer to explain. We don't have to explain by the time, but I think we still have a long way to go to get there.
Well, that's a nice call to have for the future.
We're hopeful.
Well, thanks so much, Delazi. It's been wonderful to hear how things are going at Reserve Bank and the challenges you're up against and how you're trying to overcome them. And we're kind of at the end of the show now, but can I ask, as I do with all my guests, if there's one piece of advice or one piece of wisdom you can share with other BRMs that are listening just to help them get through the day or help them improve their role, what would it be?
Maybe not one big piece, but I think us as BRMs, like I'm saying now, we need to improve a lot from our tooling perspective, so that there's also some sense of uniformity. There's a lot of bodies of knowledge there. When you go there, you'll get the same explanation of that one, right? So I think we need to be more intentions, have clear intent about that for us as BRMs. So that we can all, we can take our body of knowledge to be acknowledged and be respected and be trusted, just like other bodies of knowledge that are there in IT. I think that is our silver bullet for the future, because I think our role is still going to be questioned, it's still going to be fluid for a while, but the more we invest in that, I think it's going to help us get there. One example, I know that I'm taking this. value management, benefit realization, right? Can we standardize, on that piece? And this is not just project value. This is value from operations, from the entire value chain. Can we standardize on what value, how we measure value? We say as BRMs we are the guardians of the value and we guard against value leakages. But how do we do that? And I think we need to come up with tools and principles that we can standardize worldwide and they can be adopted by everybody. Yeah. So more collaboration on tooling and direction and firming up our body of knowledge is going to be the future for us.
Wonderful. Lovely. Well, thanks so much, Delaji. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. Thanks so much for your time. I wish you all the best of luck for your onward BRM journey, and I hope you can stay in touch.
Thank you, Mark.
Lovely. Oh, thanks a lot, Delaji.